Leonardo felt his heart beating fast as he looked at the scratch card in his hands. The small piece of paper, which he had bought on impulse during a break from work, now contained capital capable of turning his life upside down. To not miss the next incredible and exciting stories, subscribe to the channel now to stay updated. Enjoy! Leonardo was not a man accustomed to excess or strokes of luck. He lived a simple life, working as a laborer in a small factory on the outskirts of town, and every day dealing with bills, the mortgage, and all those little worries that seemed to crush him a little more each time. He had always done everything he could for his wife, Sylvia, and their daughter Julia, but the money was never enough, and every end of the month was a struggle to put food on the table and maintain a precarious balance. Sylvia had always supported him, but she was tired too. The small misunderstandings and tensions between them had become more and more frequent, and Leonardo found himself wondering if the sacrifices they were making were really enough. Their apartment was modest, located in a neighborhood on the outskirts of Naples, a vibrant city, but with its challenges. Despite all the difficulties, there had always been something reassuring in the daily routine. Leonardo had built his life around the idea that with hard work and perseverance, everything would eventually fall into place. That belief had sustained him in dark times, had given him direction and purpose. However, that certainty that seemed indestructible had suddenly collapsed, the very moment that Scratch and Win had caught him completely off guard. He had won 100,000 euros. 100,000. That amount seemed so far from his daily reality, almost surreal. For a man who had always lived on the edge, with the weight of debt looming every month, that money represented an unexpected turning point, a breath of fresh air after years spent underwater holding his breath. Joy had overwhelmed him with immense force, but it had lasted only an instant before the shadow of doubt settled in his mind. Should he share the news with Sylvia? Or perhaps the best thing would have been to keep the secret, enjoying that good fortune alone. The temptation to hide that money, to keep it for himself, was growing stronger. Not having to answer to anyone, having the freedom to choose without having to deal with anyone, fascinated him deeply. Yet, every time he thought about revealing the truth, fear blocked him. Revealing the winnings could have destroyed the fragile balance on which his family was supported, and the idea of risking everything paralyzed him, leaving him trapped between the desire for freedom and the terror of losing what he loved most. Days passed, and Leonardo still hadn't found the courage to speak. He had started making small purchases, a new jacket, a watch he had only ever dreamed of. Nothing too flashy, but Sylvia had noticed the change. His attitude had changed too. He seemed more confident, almost arrogant at times. His absences from work multiplied, and each excuse was less convincing than the last. Sylvia wasn't stupid. She knew something was wrong. The question she asked herself more and more often, however, was, what was happening? The relationship between them, which was already on the rocks, began to deteriorate even more. Sylvia could not understand how Leonardo, the man with whom she had shared years of sacrifice and deprivation, could behave so distantly. Her concerns led her to make a decision she never imagined. She would investigate. One morning, while Leonardo was out on yet another errand, Sylvia picked up his phone. She was shaking, knowing that violating her privacy was wrong, but she could no longer ignore the growing feeling that something terrible was happening. But the phone revealed nothing incriminating, only silence. And that silence, paradoxically, made her understand that there really was something Leonardo was hiding. Things came to a head one day when 3 men appeared at their door. They didn't look like simple salesmen or casual visitors. Their presence made Sylvia uncomfortable, and one of them spoke in a cold, menacing voice. "We have a message for your husband. Tell him that time is running out." Sylvia was petrified. She didn't know what they were talking about, but the air around her seemed to be getting heavier and heavier. When Leonardo came home that evening, she confronted him directly. There were no more excuses, no more time for silence. "Who are these people? Why are we in danger?" she asked in a broken voice. Leonardo realized that he could no longer hide the truth. He had tried to solve everything by himself, but now the secret was out of control. He sat down next to Sylvia and with a trembling voice confessed everything: the winnings, the money, and above all, the debt. Sylvia, incredulous, listened to Leonardo as he explained that money was no longer just an opportunity, but also a condemnation. He had tried to help his wife, to solve the problem she had with a dangerous man, Eugenio, to whom she owed a sum of money. If you like the story, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next exciting stories. Thank you. The point of no return came the day Leonardo decided to confront Eugenio. He took the money, a part of those 100,000 euros, and went to the meeting in an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the city. The place was cold and eerie, but Leonardo was determined. He had to resolve this situation to protect his family. Eugenio arrived accompanied by two menacing-looking men. There was no room for formalities. "Do you have the money, or did you come to waste time?" Eugenio asked, with an icy calm that made Leonardo's blood run cold. He opened the briefcase, showing the amount he had brought. "This is only a part," he said, in a voice of forced confidence. "But I can pay the rest if you give me more time." Eugenio stared at him, his eyes full of contempt. "You have 1 week. If you don't pay, it will be worse for you and your family." With his heart in his throat, Leonardo returned home. He knew that time was running out, and the threat was real. He had thought he could handle everything alone, but now he realized how foolish he had been. The only hope was to confess everything to Sylvia and find a solution together. The tension between them was palpable when they finally sat down to talk. Sylvia listened in silence as Leonardo recounted every detail of his mad race against time and the lies he had told to protect their family. But there were no more secrets. Not anymore. In the end, Leonardo and Sylvia realized that the only way out was to face the truth, even if it was painful. With each other's support, they could resolve the situation, but the road ahead was full of uncertainty.